Welcome to Cinema Gulp. I'm John.
And I'm Ben. And in light of recent events which have come over the entire world, which is COVID-19, I believe it's known as the virus that will not be named, we thought that we would do a double feature of some real crowd-pleasing films. John, what are we going to be watching for them today?
We got the exciting pandemic double feature of Contagion and Outbreak.
Ta-da! And also going with that, because it's semi-dark times, we hope they don't get any darker, but we also are celebrating John's birthday. He just had a birthday the other day.
Hey, wow. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, you're very welcome, man. I wouldn't want to share your birthday any other way.
It's nice to be able to still celebrate in these kind of scary times, isn't it?
It is, and you know what? You need to. People have to keep doing what they're doing and enjoying their lives the best way they can. So, John, what's one of the things you got for your birthday?
Oh, I was very lucky. For my birthday, I got a case of Corona.
All right. Give me one of those.
And a worldwide pandemic. It's good times all around here.
Yeah, I want to say we don't have to give your exact birth date away, but didn't that happen on your exact birth date?
On my exact birth date, the world announced it a worldwide pandemic.
I want your autograph.
Yeah, wonderful.
So the first one that we're going to go with is actually Contagion, which was directed by Steven Soderbergh. It's a 2011 movie, I think.
Yes.
And I remember when we were watching this, asking myself, who would want to go see this movie in the theater? It just seems like it's crazy to see it in the theater.
Well, now you can watch it in the comfort of your own home. Just look out your window.
And apparently that's what like 80 million humans are doing right now, is they're streaming these two movies. So we thought, what better way to spend this time stuck in the Cinema Gulp studios than watching these two movies and reviewing them for you guys. So John, without further ado, how about Contagion?
Hell yeah. Let's
cheers
on that.
Air cheers.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Ding.
The average person touches their face 3 to 5 times every waking minute. In between, we're touching doorknobs, water fountains, and each other.
Ben.
No, go up to your room, honey.
So we have a virus with no treatment protocol and no vaccine at this time.
Well, to quote Dark Helmet, I can't breathe in this thing.
How do you fucking breathe in this thing?
Okay, so Contagion is terrible. Not in the sense that it's a bad movie. It's actually a quite good movie.
Terrifying.
There you go. But I just
Yes.
wanted to say terrible. It's got a Steven Soderbergh feel to it for sure. It's got the editing. It's got the weird kooky music. It's got a lot of vignette-y things going on in it.
Very much.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it has Soderbergh's films. A lot of them have had kind of that indie style. He came from the indie scene back in the late 80s and 90s. It helped start it to some degree, put it on the map in a mainstream way. And he still held on to that even in 2011. You can still feel those roots in this film, but it also has the sheen of a Hollywood movie.
Sure.
And he's gone back and forth in his career of doing the Ocean's 11 movies that have that sheen and are very Hollywood and filled with all the stars. And so this movie does kind of feel like that at times because it's got all these stars and it looks good and stuff like that. But the subject matter and the docu-style of the way that it's shot brings it back to that gritty, independent style and the realism. I mean, this movie really does hit home in a moment like we're living in right now. You can't understate how real this movie can feel at times.
Yeah, and I to piggyback on the Hollywood feel, it does because of the big actors, and it's very glossy, it's very polished. But I love that no actor in this movie, like you got Kate Winslet in there, you got Matt Damon in there, Marianne Cotillard. All these actors, like they're playing it so straight, and they're playing their parts that are just like people talking language that we don't even understand, and they're not doing anything. No one's trying to win Oscars. They're just these characters are just stripped down to exactly what they're supposed to be. A CDC person, you know. You have Bryan Cranston in there as like the fucking like rear admiral or whatever for the Navy that somehow makes big decisions like that. But yeah, and then Matt Damon is in there. Yeah, everyone's just playing it very straight, and so no one's trying to stand out and make it a Hollywood performance. That's kind of what makes it feel even more real.
Yeah, I agree.
As if it was like no names in there. If there's no names in there, no one would have watched it. But in times we're living in today, man, this is a fucking crazy movie to watch. I had anxiety within the first 2 minutes.
It was a movie that I remember after seeing it. It has that realism that you would never want to live through this kind of time if you saw something like this really happening. And so I think you said right before we watched, you're like, this was a movie that when you had seen it the first time, you're like, I hope I never have to watch that movie again.
Yeah.
And
I remember
now the
thinking
world's
that.
giving us a reason to reach out and see this movie again. But on a second rewatch, I like it more, I guess.
do too.
I mean, it's not like a movie I didn't like the first time I had seen it, but I probably felt like you, of like, man, that's a subject matter I don't want to revisit. It's pretty intense, and not just because we're living through it. It's a pretty well-made movie, and procedurals, films that are kind of procedurals, or TV shows that are popular for doing that these days, sometimes they can get stuck in minutia that's boring. And I think this movie moves at a good pace, keeping you kind of on the edge of your seat all through this movie of what's going on and how to solve a worldwide pandemic.
And I think you got your real good monkey wrench character in there of Jude Law, who's kind of this like outlier character. Like I love that, like he kind of swoops in there as your because there's a million of those people now. They're bloggers.
Big time,
You know,
yeah.
Jude Law's character is like this conspiracy theorist, blogger. People don't think he's a real journalist. He stumbles on this. It's one of the first things that happens, and he rolls with it. And he's a hard character to kind of pin down. Like, is he trying to do the right thing? Is he just trying to make money? Is he just doing it for fame? It seems like a little bit of all that stuff. Because there are moments where he just like beats the shit out of those CDC people on live television because he's just so much better at that than, catching them in all their lies and pinpointing what they can and cannot say. And unfortunately,
Exactly.
that's just the way it works. You
Yeah.
just don't know. Like, the movie really shows you how like CDC and military and government, they cannot speculate. So they
Yeah.
can't tell you anything.
Jude Law is very much a composite of real people out there right now.
Sure.
Probably spreading some misinformation in these times right now. Again, the movie doesn't fully let you know whether he knew what he's doing is real misinformation or not, but it's an interesting take.
It is.
That is part of the reality we're seeing in the world.
I've never seen a Soderbergh movie where I wasn't fascinated with the cutting, the editing.
Yes, the editing is top notch in this movie.
Yeah, always. Always.
Even to the point that I was saying, the first 10, 15 minutes of this movie are scarier than most horror movies in the way that they just linger on a doorknob, linger on something that someone is infected has touched.
Yeah.
Just, watching someone move through a space and knowing how many people potentially just became infected by that one person moving through this space, and it is fucking frightening.
And it happens a lot in the beginning. Like they'll show that the kid leaving school because he's coughing, and then they show the big door with the push thing, and you see the smudge of the kid's fingerprint across it. It's like, that's legit. That's why all that shit goes down, man.
Wash your hands, people. Well, as frightening as this movie is, the disease, the virus that's depicted in the movie, something, hopefully the world never really does come up against something as deadly as the movie depicts.
Yeah.
And that, thankfully, the coronavirus that we seem to be dealing with is not as deadly as what this is depicted as.
This virus is like an element of every horrible thing possible put into like one virus.
Yeah, so it probably adds to the paranoia right now to watch this movie in these times. But I think seeing this, now having seen the movie recently, how quickly it moves within the movie terms, how deadly it is within the movie terms, and this one not being that way, it actually makes me feel a little bit better. That we're not seeing the worst case scenario that can be depicted.
Well, what doesn't make me feel better, though, is the way human beings react. And in the movie,
Very true.
In the movie, they react. So the movie, basically, the big majority of it takes place in a short amount of time, where when people find out about it, say on day 14, then it goes to like day 31, people are already post-apocalypting themselves out. They're shooting people for food. They're robbing people's houses and killing them. They're throwing chairs through banks. They're robbing everything. They're looting everything. And this is one of the first few days of this thing hitting. And seeing what I've seen briefly on the internet is despicable. And it's not necessary yet to fight people for toilet paper. And that kind of stuff just makes me sad. And it's like and the movie does that job of going like, oh, well, the writers of this movie, we know human beings. They're fucking morons. And like everything that's happening in that movie is in a much lesser degree right now happening with the way people are reacting. I've been in the grocery store lately seeing people treat each other like absolute shit, you know, and when it should be the opposite of that. I walk around with my Bob Ross shirt on and skip through the aisles, just getting pickles, because I don't think anyone's asking for pickles.
It's getting crazy out there. I was just at the store before we started the reviews, and pretty much many of the aisles are decimated, but not the Corona aisle. Plenty of Corona.
Yeah, because apparently this is what gives it to us.
I saw it on sale, so.
Was it on like a 75% off sale?
Like, you're fighting this virus, you got to work together to do it. The reality is you got to distance from each other to help fight it, including what we're dealing with right now. That's a smart choice. But when you start seeing the people killing each other for basic necessities, turning on each other in the stores over toilet paper, which we're actually seeing happen right now, it's despicable and pretty frightening if we get to that point in reality here.
And you know, it's such a thin line too. It's like, I agree, like, be prepared, be cautious, but do it in your own bubble, at your own pace, with yourself, and don't, because I mean, I don't want to go into there's so many weird, crazy shit. Like, there's people buying up Lysol wipes and selling them for 10 times the amount of money. You don't need those, by the way. Just wash your fucking hands.
With Corona.
Everyone's gonna come out of this thing okay, but everyone's hands are gonna be fucked because they've been putting so much Purell on them. You're not gonna be able to see anybody's fingerprints anymore.
Gonna look like the guy in RoboCop.
I survived the coronavirus.
Now, I know that some of us have doubts about what we're about to do. We'd be less than human if we didn't. But the fate of the nation, perhaps the world, is in our hands. We cannot, we dare not refuse this burden. I'm confident that each of you will do his duty.
All right, so we just watched Outbreak, the second movie in our quarantine movie marathon today. And Ben, what are we drinking?
Okay, well, in honor of the quarantine edition, John, and finishing our second feature, these are Quarantinis.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and there I thought, ding.
Yeah, let's not get too close. Okay.
Give it a try.
All right.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
That tastes excellent.
That's not bad, right?
What vodka is this?
This is actually from a fellow cinema gulper, Mark. This is called Bison Fed Grass Vodka. That's what this martini is made with, and
That's delicious.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
What'd you think of Outbreak?
I thought it was pretty damn corny, but entertaining. It's a 1995 Wolfgang Petersen movie. You know, with the cast in it, makes sense, but I enjoy. It's an enjoyable movie. It's got a great last like 30 minutes that's fun, and the first part of it is very tense and is kind of scary. But I don't find it to be as like tense or frightening as Contagion was, even though the virus is a much more deadly to an extent, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a little. Well, you can talk about it, but it feels like it's all kind of just wrapped up in these kind of ridiculous ways, and everything's kind of controlled fairly easily. Whereas the beginning of it is like, holy shit, this is going to be crazy. And then it's kind of contained, you know, like.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, having the experience of watching it back in 1995, I'm sure that's when you saw it first as well. It's the first film that introduced us to this kind of pandemic situation.
Sure.
So it really worked, brought up the fear level the first time I had seen it. Now, going through a real pandemic, and having watched Contagion before seeing Outbreak, yeah, it just comes across as a bit corny, and I do like that it has Hollywood elements to it where you're kind of following like a heroic character, and it's a plot-driven film that's kind of beginning, middle, and end, whereas Contagion, we said, is kind of this vignette thing and dealt more procedural-like. But the realism isn't quite there in Outbreak that you get from Contagion. And so watching on a day like today, when we're really living through something like this, it didn't have the impact it used to have, because some of that corniness and the obvious Hollywood script that it's working from with heroes and sidekicks and funny banter and stuff like that throughout, and a romantic love story crammed into it and everything like that. Those elements really stand out as a contrast from what you get with Contagion. Yeah. And Contagion just works on a whole different level now, I would say, than Outbreak.
The adventure side of Outbreak, where you know, you do kind of, you have the hero, and then you have, you know, the bad, evil military people who have their own plot that they're trying to drive. And like, Contagion isn't that movie. And what I like about Outbreak is it really, look, we've talked about this several times on the show throughout the years, like, when is the 90s going to feel different? And watching this movie after Contagion really, I don't know if it completely has identified that, but it definitely, it's the tropes of this right in the mid 90s. The tropes of it are so absent from today's cinema. Like you said, like, the hero has to be identified as someone who has marriage trouble. The ex-wife has to be in the same field as him, and they have a huge history. And half the plot is them getting back together in the end. Like, and the sidekick, the Cuba Gooding Jr. character. There's so many of those, like the Kevin Spacey,
Rene Russo.
But all those little tropes in those '90s movies really stands out now.
But fill out the screenplay, but it works.
It does for the movie that it's making at the time.
That's what helps create that plot-driven element of, you know, these characters are following along, and instead of jumping globetrotting to a bunch of people that you're not really that informed about who they are or that invested.
Yeah, you follow a protagonist in this movie.
Yeah.
What do you think about the acting?
It's good. I mean, you've got fine actors. Dustin Hoffman always puts in great performances. He has a couple hammy lines for
He
sure.
does, but he still crushes
Is he still breathing? Or check his breathing or whatever.
No!
But Morgan Freeman, Renee Zellweger,
Renee Zellweger is great in this movie.
Cuba Gooding Jr., you know, just easing into his best years of his career, I would say.
And he had to cry. Cuba always makes sure he gets that cry scene in there.
The big difference between this movie and Contagion is how violent this virus is in this movie to the human body.
100%
I mean, it basically
mortality
melts
rate.
you down in 48 hours.
Yeah.
So that element of this movie is really scary if we were to look at that in a real world sense. I mean, it would just be end of the world.
It deflates a lot of that fear, how quickly they contain it.
Yes.
And it's just in this little small hick town in Northern California, and it's just completely contained. And then the movie becomes like dilemma driven, like, well, what do we do with these people? It's like there's no more like mystery of like, how is this spreading? Where is this going? They contain it way too quick. But I agree with you. The Patrick Dempsey scene in the plane is just as scary as anything in Contagion. That scene is crazy. But you wanted more of that, and they fill the movie with so many top expert scientists that like they just figure shit out so fast and so easy, and they don't give you a time frame for how long this movie's supposed to be taking place. Months, days, weeks.
It seems like from case one to where we're at, it's almost less than maybe a few weeks.
Yeah, maybe
it's supposedly
like,
moving really fast.
Yeah.
But that, to your point, that's even less time than all this figuring out, all this investigation that supposedly is going on to get to a solution, to get to a vaccine. They have to track down Marcel the monkey. The whole finding Marcel the monkey and all the things that tie that together. Finding the monkey porn underneath the guy's bunk bed on the Chinese ship.
That's kind of creepy. That he's got pictures of him and a monkey.
Yeah, people, don't fuck monkeys out there. That's where this stuff all gets started. I'm sure that coronavirus started from someone fucking a bat. I blame Batman. I don't know, but people, please, just pet your animals, pet your pets.
I was in a birthing compartment on an aircraft carrier for years, and I slept on the bottom bunk, and the pictures that were on my ceiling were all of midgets.
That is a part of the movie that I found on this rewatch to be absolutely ridiculous, is them tracking down Marcel the monkey and all the things they go through in a very short period of time to accomplish that, to save the entire world. But, you know, it's fun, populist entertainment.
It is, and again, for the year, it's hard to, you can't compare the two movies other than anything like the story, because like how they were made and things like that, like you have
the
like
filmmakers behind
Donald Sutherland in this movie just hamming it up as like President Snow from fucking The Hunger Games.
Yeah, big
bomb those people. Like, he has no remorse. He doesn't give a shit that he's about to kill all these women and children and men. And Wolfgang Petersen's real hit or miss with me. This one was kind of like a mild hit, just because it's well made for what it is, I guess. The action scenes are done good, I think. And the dramatic scenes are done well, too. Especially, like, I hate to say it, elephant in the room, Kevin Spacey always puts in great work. What do you want me to say?
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
He's a psychopath, but he always put in great work. So
if I let you blow me?
I always think fondly of this movie. I always thought of it as still very scary, the concept behind it.
It is.
Just thankfully, stuff that seems this crazy, like killing people in 48 hours and completely liquefying the body, is something we haven't really run into on a real scale. So hopefully that never really happens, because that part is the scariest part of this movie.
Yeah, it is.
So since we're going to be quarantined for a while, Ben,
Ding.
we're not going to be able, not going to be out to be getting out and about seeing movies for a while. We're going to be stuck here in quarantine. What kind of shows we got coming up for the cinema gulpers out there?
Sorry, it just went all down my face. Yeah, because of the state that movie theaters are in and the fact that...
The state of emergency that the country's in?
Yeah, well, what's going on with movie theaters and what's going on with studios and stuff, I know it's going to eventually going to cost jobs, it's going to cost people a lot of money and stuff like that. But in the meantime, as long as YouTube is still available, we're going to continue to make stuff. We're going to make more stuff than normal because y'all just love us so much and give us so many views. We want to give back and just make more content for you guys to watch and share and like and subscribe to and tell your friends. It's going to be good. It's going to be a good month of quarantine, John. Oh my God, I can't put this on anymore. It just smells like straight fucking Appletini.
We're going to keep giving you so much content until you're sick of us, literally.
Oh, we're going to give
right.
you so much content that we're going to spread like a virus. Oh, that sucks.
We're going viral. Let's do it. We're excited.
Be safe out there. Wash your goddamn hands.
Yes.
And more than that, we drink your cinema.
We watch your cinema.
Wow!